Sling TV has something for everyone. It really just depends on what kind of mood you're in. But no matter what you're looking for, you can watch it with Sling. Sports, news, and today's hottest shows. Plus, you can explore thousands of movies and TV shows on demand. And getting Sling is easy. Sign up and start watching in just 5 minutes. Stream on any device and record up to 50 hours with your included DVR space. Plus, you won't get locked into a long-term contract. Check out sling.com for special offers. Sling, the TV you love for a price you'll love. Try it today. Welcome to the Andy Staples Show presented by Sling. It is a big newsy night. Bo Nix is coming back to Oregon. Washington's 2 top pass rushers are coming back for next year. We may as well just stay in the Pac-12 and talk Dion because we've got David Ubben on who just wrote a big Dion story. And I was going to go into a discussion of the early bowls, and there were some really good ones. Frank Gore Jr. especially breaking the all-time bowl rushing record, then waving off Auntie in the post-game.
Frank Gore Jr., Heisman sleeper?
Oh, yeah. For next year? Absolutely.
I may or may not be writing a mailbag this week, and he may or may not have made my list.
That's a good one.
My favorite tweet about the Frank Gore stuff was somebody tweeted, does anybody have any good NFL comps?
That's tremendous. It was, I don't know about you guys. I felt like this was a really good opening bowl weekend. Like Bahamas Bowl was fun. The Cura Bowl was what we thought it was going to be. Like the 2 pretty good defenses playing against each other and an exciting game.
Also, is it true that that's the only bowl that pairs 2 conference champions?
It is. It's wild.
They were talking about that during the broadcast, and I didn't have the time or I didn't care enough to fact check it. But I was like, I mean, I guess so, but I didn't really look at it. But props to the Cure Bowl.
Yeah, because you usually think that one of the playoff ones would at least.
One would think.
Right, and the national championship game still could, so
Yes.
and we think it will. But yeah, that was pretty funny the way that worked out. But and then you had the Awkwardness Bowl at Fenway Park, which Ari Vegas knew. Like you and I were like, well, I mean, Cincinnati has more guys playing, and Evan Prater's going to play, and no.
No, yeah.
We'll kill
the thing about the bowl season is that, and I think that you could make the case too with the opt-outs and all the stuff that, in the transfer portal. Like if your favorite thing about college football is the absurdity of it and the grab-assery of it, like I just feel like the bowl season with new players, like Evan Prater playing, I thought was awesome. Like just getting to get your eyes on him,
Well, I mean, we got to see him some this year.
No, I know, but like getting a full game of him, like the magnification of the grab-ass during bowl season is the charm of it. Like I know everybody hates opt-outs, and they certainly hate them when it comes to bigger bowls towards the end of December and into January. But like the opt-outs in these bowls, bring them on. Like I'm like, into it.
Yeah. I will say I didn't like the opt-outs, but can we? And let me put you guys in your shoes. Okay. You're a 19-year-old, 20-year-old college athlete. You qualify for a bowl game. You have a great season. Maybe you play for Louisville. Maybe you play for Cincinnati. And someone says, where are we going for our bowl game? And they say, you're going to Boston, and you get to play outside.
Dun, dun, dun.
How furious are you at that point?
Yeah, cue the drop kick Murphys, and you're like, what?
I mean, there is something kind of cool about playing a game in Fenway Park, though, right?
What if you, like me, don't give a crap about baseball?
Ari, there was a game in the Bahamas, and there was a game at Fenway Park. Which game do you want to play in?
I've been to Fenway Park one time, and it was for the ALCS, and I can't remember. It was 5-6 years ago. And we bought tickets for $500 a piece outside of the stadium because it was like a big – I think they were even playing the Yankees. I can't remember. Mm-hmm. But we drank all day, and I passed out in my seats that were like on the third base line, 5 seats up in the second inning.
This is an extremely Ari story for the rest.
Ari's like getting killed by a foul ball.
Hammered, and I passed out. And I woke up in the 8th inning, and it was 0-0, and I was like, "Let's go, baby!"
I missed nothing. Let's roll.
Ari, how many Bo Sox fans do you think are on the Louisville and Cincinnati rosters? If you had to put the Vegas over/under at 0.5,
I don't know. Like baseball is not football, so probably.
But here's the thing: if you're a baseball fan, you'd want to go to a game in June. You don't want to play your bowl game at Fenway. Please send me to Tampa or something.
The Bahamas.
Would you rather play in Fenway Park or in Ford Field?
Like
what about all the
Ford Field's warmer?
Going to Detroit. I don't
know.
How
about about we just ban all bowl games north of the Mason-Dixon?
Yeah.
How about we do that?
I mean, I don't know. Like, I would rather
send
play
me to
in
Frisco.
Fenway.
I'll take
I mean,
Frisco
you
over
get
Boston. Goodness
to
gracious.
do something athletically in that stadium. Like, it's a thing that you can remember for the rest of your life. At least it's better than like all the other random bowls with random sponsors in cold places.
So you're saying the Myrtle Beach Bowl does not do it for you the way that the Fenway Bowl.
I'm not saying that I would prefer to play in Fenway over Myrtle Beach or let's say the Bahamas. I'm just saying it's not the bottom of the rung.
Right.
Plus, if you go, there is a complete lack of airbrush technology outside of Fenway Park. Where if you go to Myrtle Beach, I mean that's 40% of the local economy.
You can get that license plate back there, that touch of class license plate. They'll put it on a T-shirt for you too.
Is that where you got that?
No, I ordered it off Amazon, but it was probably designed in Myrtle Beach.
Is that Andy? Is that a Randy Staples original? I think it does.
No,
does it not?
Well, no. So here's the thing: if you're listening on the podcast and you can't see the video stream, I have an airbrushed black front license plate that has a rose on it, and it says "Touch of Class" in cursive. And if you grew up in a certain part of the South, specifically like South Carolina, Georgia, like. You've seen these. They're on the front of your grandmother's Buick. And it was certainly on the front of my grandmother's Oldsmobile, actually. So you've seen these. And yes, you can buy them at Myrtle Beach.
What does it mean? Explain it to me, because I've never asked you about it, but I have no idea
what it
means.
For itself, Ari.
Don't read too much into
Ari,
it.
I can't tell you how little irony is involved in this license plate.
It's just that extra touch of class.
But this is something that people in the South are like familiar with when they see it. They're like, "Oh, wow, I see that all the time."
No, you don't now, but in the 1980s, you would see it on like a 1981 Oldsmobile 88.
And it's these people saying that
being driven by a 76-year-old woman.
Not so much
like
the car,
a
but
pile of cigarettes in the ashtray.
Ari, it's like the antithesis of truck nuts, basically.
You know, I sometimes feel like I'm 35. You know, I've lived a pretty well-balanced life. I've traveled. I've seen things. I've been to Fenway. Kind of.
But have you been to Conway?
Oh, by the way, speaking of Fenway, the fattest thing I ever did was at Fenway, and I just reminded myself of it.
What was that?
I don't know if it was the fattest, and I might go like I was like starving, and in Fenway Park, unlike any other ballpark I've ever been to, like you can grab your food, like in the line, you can grab it, right? Because it's
That's
like out.
Grab ass right there.
But it's like out. You grab it and then you pay for it after. I just grabbed a hot dog and ate it.
The honor system. I love it.
It was an honor system scenario, and I jacked the bratwurst.
I have sat in the all-you-can-eat seats at Dodger Stadium back in the day, but the problem is that they really it's the dregs of the food is bad. That's why it's all you can eat. Well, it's like lukewarm Dodger dogs and like gelatinous nacho cheese.
Ooh.
It was a fun experience to say that I've done it, but it was not a positive experience at the time. I had a modest, I would say I ate 6 hot dogs, had a bunch of drinks. Like it was fine.
Well, I think the Myrtle Beach Bowl will be a better experience for everyone.
We all have to just go to Myrtle Beach as a squad and just really
airbrush 50-yard logo. Who says no?
I don't know that Tim Beck's going to be as much fun as Jamie Chadwell was at Coastal. That's the part I worry about.
Yeah, that's probably about right.
Little worried about how fast they went.
You guys see that Justin Flo just committed to Arizona a little bit ago?
How about that?
There you go.
What's that? Is that the sign?
They also got a Georgia offensive lineman, a former 4-star, who the only picture anybody has of him is wearing number 45. So
the cupboard is filling.
Jeff Fish is doing a great job. I feel like we're talking a lot about the Pac-12. While we're talking,
I wanted to toss it in there while we're on the Pac-12.
Well, we're going to stay on the Pac-12 for a little bit, Ari. I want to talk about before we get into the meat of the discussion with David about Dion. I want to congratulate the Oregon State Beavers on destroying my alma mater in the Vegas Bowl. I want to congratulate Pat McAfee on making that slightly watchable by repeatedly just invoking. It's the Vegas Bowl, like that is the Super Bowl, like it is that important.
Well, listen,
unironically
saying that over and over and over.
What happened there? Does Florida just not care?
The combination of not care, didn't have guys, aren't that good of a team.
All of the above.
All the above. I will say, listen, all three of us were in Vegas recently. Unfortunately, Ari and I did not get to cross paths, but at one point in the trip, our colleague Nicole Auerbach introduced me to a beverage that comes with a Szechuan flour.
It's the
that
verbena,
makes your mouth tingle.
at the Cosmo in the chandelier bar.
Yes, in the chandelier bar. I indulged in this, and I told her, I said, listen, we are in Vegas for this week. If there's any novelty, I'm embracing it. And listen, Pat McAfee clearly embraced the novelty of Vegas. It's a one of a kind place.
You think that's the novelty of Vegas?
Well, listen, there's a lot of
There's
a lot of novelty in Vegas, but novelty comes in many forms. Sorry,
foot-long hot dog for $2.99, about a half mile up the strip. If you miss out on it, I think the nice little rose for $17.99.
Novelty comes in many forms. Listen, I've never had a drink that came with the flour that set my mouth on fire and changed the flavor of what I was drinking. I did not know this existed.
It does make you taste colors once you chew that flour.
I went from not knowing this thing existed to consuming it in about 15 minutes, and it was a very positive experience.
How long did you chew the flour? Because you're supposed to chew it for like 30 to 60 seconds.
Yeah, they told us 20 seconds. They told us 20 to 30 seconds. I did about that. It was more. It did not change the flavor of the drink as much as I thought it would, but the feeling and they call it tingling. It was on the edge of pain. It was a lot more intense than I thought it was. I was not prepared for that.
It was like Szechuan button, which is not to be confused with this.
And tossing a little soda down the gullet.
There you go.
Time,
but that'll make your head explode. So, but yeah, no, the Szechuan button, not to be confused with the Szechuan pepper, but a very similar mouthfeel, very similar effect. So
I enjoyed it.
It was very interesting.
Yeah, all right. After we get off the podcast here, Dave, I'm going to send you a list of the best 20 novelties of Las Vegas. The ones that won't get me canceled on this podcast.
And then 30 minutes later, I'm gonna report Ari to HR, and this will be the last episode.
You know those cards they slap on the strip?
All right, Andy, where are we going?
All right, we're going to Boulder. Well, we're going to Boulder by way of Jackson, by way of Atlanta. So Deion Sanders' Jackson State tenure ended with a loss in the Celebration Bowl. That
very
one
entertaining game.
Poor guy dropping the pass in overtime. He's never living that down.
We will decline from identifying his demographics, but it was a tough drop and a tough situation.
I wasn't going to say anything, David. Maybe I think you can say it. I can't say that. So
we'll just say it was a moment.
If you're going to be that guy, don't drop that pass.
It's true.
That's all I can say.
The clip of Dion consoling him in the locker room after the game did go somewhat viral on Sunday. It was interesting. It was interesting to see, which will tap into something we're talking about.
Let's talk Dion though, because you did a story where you talked to a bunch of people around the program at Jackson State to go inside what Dion's program looked like at Jackson State to give people an idea of what Dion's program at Colorado might look like. And it's a really good story. If you haven't read it on The Athletic, I recommend everybody read it. But David, for those who are just listening right now, give us a little taste of it.
Well, I think there's this idea because Dion did not come up in a traditional way. He doesn't have the so-called coaching mentors. He wasn't a running backs coach and then a coordinator and then got a job. He coached a little bit in high school in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, was an OC at a small private school. There was the Prime Prep saga, all that stuff. And then he was the head coach at Jackson State. And I think there's this belief that, well, he hasn't paid his dues. He doesn't know what he's doing. His program, he just brings these kids in and they just roll the ball out there and they just let them go to work. I think there's that perception of the Dion program, fair or not. So I just wanted to talk to people like, how does he actually run his program? And I think what I was struck with is he has some little signatures that he does, and you can see those in the story. But Andy, it was remarkably unremarkable in that I've been around a lot of different programs. They run a lot like every other program. And there's other coaches on staff. It's not just Dion. And some of those guys have come up in a more traditional way.
And he seems smart enough to be able to rely on the people who have the experience that he lacks.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing. There's two main tenets of Dion's program is that, for one, he was selling the HBCU dream, which certainly prompted a lot of the criticism of him leaving Jackson State. He was saying, hey, listen, HBCUs have been cast aside for a long time. Come here, help us rebuild that. That was a powerful pitch. That's a big reason why he got Travis Hunter. Travis Hunter can do things at Jackson State that he cannot do at Florida State. And we'll see. I'm not so sure that Travis Hunter is going to just sort of, walks his way back into the Power 5. I think that meant something to him. And I think obviously he has a relationship with TC Taylor, who is going to be the new coach there. That was one half of the sell. There's the Coach Prime effect. He's a magnetic personality. He really resonates with kids. And that was one of the things that I wanted to talk to when I talked to guys that had played for him, is like, why do you care about him? You are 18, 19. He played long. I don't know when he retired. I mean, it was a while ago. It was
everybody else that played in his era has been forgotten from this standpoint.
And yet you still care about him. And I think guys just still idolize him. I think there's the swag element of it, the jewelry.
I think their dads idolize him.
Yeah,
a lot of them.
There's an element of that. But he does resonate. And you can say he doesn't or complain about why he does, but the reality is that he does. And there's that effect for recruiting. And then, of course, there's the, hey, I'm the best ever at my position. I know what it's like to be in the NFL. I've been through what you've been through. I can get you to the next level. And here's my staff that's got a bunch of NFL experience on the field and in coaching. So we're going to get you to the next level.
SC Sky, I honestly don't think Dion is that good of an X and O coach. I think he was just able to accumulate talent, massively out-talent his opponents. So basically Dabo Swinney, because you just described Dabo Swinney.
That I think is what we're going to find out. That's what we're going to find out. That I think is the most interesting part of Dion going to Colorado, is that the reality is he had a middle-of-the-road G5 probably caliber roster, maybe with some stars on top of that. Shadeur Sanders, obviously Travis Hunter.
Which in the SWAC is going to dominate.
Yes. And so, like the guys that I talked to were, we were just more talented than other people. Well,
that's his entire pitch at Colorado.
Well, but what does it look like when his talent isn't that much better? But also, how much talent can he get at Colorado? And I don't think we have the answer to either of those questions. And that's part of why this whatever the Deion Sanders saga at Colorado ends up being, it's going to be fascinating, and there's going to be a ton of eyes on it. And Colorado has not been this relevant since, dare I say, 1990.
So listen. The over-under for the season win totals next year, do you know what it is? You want to play the game, I guess?
I believe it's 5.5.
5.5.
Yeah.
So, like, if people are sitting here thinking that, like, this is going to be, like, a playoff team next year.
Well,
like, you're misunderstanding.
Now, I'll say this, Ari. I don't think you're a playoff team, but wasn't the USC over-under, like, 7.5 or 8.5?
Yeah. It was 8.5.
So I don't think Dion is Lincoln Riley, but I'll just tell you, based on when you look at who is...
But USC also had Notre Dame on their schedule in the non-conference. I don't know who Colorado opens with who again?
TCU and Nebraska.
TCU and
they host Nebraska. So here's the thing. The reality is that Colorado, when you look in the transfer report and you look at who is... Well, I'm in the portal. Here's what I'm looking at. Colorado is on lists that you would never expect.
Because and so Travis Hunter's probably going to go there. That's one.
Yeah, we'll see. That's a big part of it.
But what do you think he's going to do? That's what Dion said.
We'll find out. We'll see. But ultimately, they can do some things, and maybe they're going to be better than people think. I think
8 wins would be better than what people think.
I think that's something. I think that's not insane to me.
It's not insane. No,
they were the worst team in the Power 5.
I would bet the over right now if I was betting
on 8.5
on 5.5.
Oh yeah, 5.5. I absolutely would.
We were putting Lance Leipold on Coach of the Year list for taking over the worst Power 5 program in the country.
Can be done quickly. And if anybody can do it quickly, it's Dion.
Yeah.
Here's the thing, though.
If Colorado's bowl eligible next year, that's fine. But I will say this, and Ari and I have talked about this. If he can accumulate talent, which I think he will, he can be in the top third of the league just by accumulating enough talent based on what the league will be starting in 2024. Like a USC-less Pac-12, if you've got players, you're going to win 8 games a year.
Let's not gloss over the fact that the Dion effect, whatever that looks like, there's not a lot of people that get sitting G5 coaches to come be an OC for you. Like, that is an unbelievable thing. Like, I think the last guy to do that was, Pete Lembo, maybe?
Dan Enos. Dan Enos from Central Michigan to Alabama.
That does not happen very often.
Well, it's going to start happening more often because Sean Lewis had been trying to get Power 5 head coaching jobs, was stuck at Kent State.
He's more marketable as his next
So he's going to get more money at Colorado. And if their offense is good, he'll get all the credit and he'll get hired for a Power 5 job. And that's somebody asked me on my mailbag last week. They're like, that seems like an odd path. I'm like, well, only if getting more money and getting closer to where you actually want to be is odd to you. Because, and then I did the list of the coaches that have gone from Power 5 coordinator to Power 5 head coach and Power 5 or Group of 5 head coach to Power 5 head coach.
Mixed bag, I'm guessing.
In the last 4 years, 19 Power 5 coordinators have become Power 5 head coaches, and 12 Group of 5 head coaches have become Power 5 head coaches. I was trying to remember the last coach, because like the last one who jumped from the Sun Belt to a Power 5 job was Billy Napier going Louisiana to Florida.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't remember. I couldn't remember off the top of my head the last MAC coach who jumped to a Power 5 head coaching job. It's been a while.
It has been a while. I'm trying to think. The MAC hasn't had that wonderkin. Is it? It's not PJ Fleck, is it?
It is. It is
PJ Fleck. Wow.
Yep.
I covered their bowl game at Western Michigan. Corey Davis, shout out.
Yeah.
So here's the thing about Deion Sanders at Colorado. There are a lot of elements, and everybody knows me as the Stars Matter dude, but there are a lot of elements to winning football at a program, right? You got culture, correct hires, ability to make it through tough times, aka the cliche of adversity. But there's a lot of things that you can doubt that Dion will be able to handle. How good is he of an X's and O's coach? Will he listen to his assistants? All these things that you could say could be the reason why this goes off the rails. But the one thing that I think all three of us can agree on is that, like, they have no doubt whatsoever that he's going to get dudes there, right?
No, I have no doubts about that.
And if you have no doubts about him getting dudes somewhere, that's 85% of the job. And like that is the whole thing. The reason why he is a hireable person isn't because of the YouTube channel. Well, maybe some of it is to make it more recognizable, but it's the faith that this person can bring in a level of talent that could not go to this program in previous years. That's it. That's the whole thing.
I think it's weird. Like I read the comments on any story we do involving Dion, and David's was no different. First thing, why aren't you doing an investigation of Prime Prep? Well, The Athletic didn't exist when Prime Prep did, but a lot of other media outlets did, and they covered it very thoroughly.
The Dallas Morning News did a fantastic story. There's not a lot of meat left on that bone, and I think the Prime Prep thing is interesting. You know, that was pretty inexcusable. It was bad. Dion's not the chancellor of Colorado. I don't know. Like, I don't know what people.
Well, they might make him. They might make him the chancellor.
Yeah, in time. Yeah, that's true. But like, it was really bad, and it did not work out. And they did a lot of things that were not taking ownership of what was a failure. But I don't think to say that this is a different endeavor is to excuse or cast aside that. I just think that happened. I don't think that's a secret. Right. I don't think people are overlooking it. I don't think people are forgotten about it.
Just got another head coaching job.
Yeah.
I mean, like it's a pretty forgiving business if you win and get players.
So 2 weeks ago, this is the most important
the other
thing.
order.
2 weeks ago, I asked Andy on the show, and I'm happy that you're here now, David, to weigh in, of whether or not Deion Sanders was going to be a heel of the sport. And when I wrote the story, was it last weekend about the first 4-star that committed to him?
Dylan Edwards, yeah.
A lot of the comments were, can't wait for the house of cards to fall. This guy's a fraud.
There's a lot of that.
What is it? Why do you think people seem to not like him or are rooting for him to fail more so than any other first-year coach, maybe outside of Lincoln Riley, who was the ultimate heel last year?
But Oklahoma fans were rooting.
Right.
Fans of other schools didn't care.
I don't think people cared. Yeah, people were just like, "Oh, Lincoln's a good coach. We'll see." I don't think it's one thing, Ari. I think it is that he jumped the line in a lot of ways. That he didn't pay his dues. I think that's part of it. I think that he doesn't talk like other coaches. He doesn't say a lot of like coach speak. I think for whatever you want to make of the way that he conducts himself or runs his program, and whether or not that is calculated or short-sighted or whatever you want to say, we haven't seen a coach like Dion in college football. And I think he opens himself up to criticism. And I think in the same breath, I don't think he cares about it, which is actually unique to a lot of coaches because he keeps doing things that people might criticize him for.
Imagine you were the greatest cornerback who ever lived. Would you care what anybody thought about anything?
Well,
you did?
and for what it's worth, I think we should also discuss that all the stuff that annoys people about him is stuff that probably doesn't matter. Okay, he thought he got robbed his first game at Jackson State. It ends up that there was like a mix-up. Okay, he wants a reporter to call him coach because, like, okay, whatever you want to say about that.
That was just stupid.
Yeah, but like that doesn't matter. It affects people's opinions, but it doesn't actually matter. It certainly doesn't matter inside the locker room. And I think that's what fuels a lot of perception. And I will say, when Dion was first coming along the scene, I thought, well, this kind of seems, it's tougher for black coaches to get jobs in this business. And, there's a lot of other people that have paid their dues. And I was kind of like, that kind of rubbed me the wrong way. But I've talked to a lot of black coaches over the last year and a half since Dion has kind of been having his rise. And every single I'm telling you, I have not talked to one black coach who said something more different than this. They just say the same thing. Hey, we're rooting for him because if he succeeds, there's more seats at the table for us.
And I don't think that everybody rooting for him to fail is because he's black. Because
I don't think that's part of it.
You don't get that with Ryan Walters. Like
there might be a small element of that,
right?
But I don't think that's the main.
I think it's the jumping the line thing more. But here's SC Scout guy in the chat. The reason people don't like him is because of the way he carries himself and has always carried himself. Yeah, but that's also the reason the players like him. You said Dion is all about Dion first and everyone else second. David, you talked to players who played for Dion at the school he left. Do they think he's about him first and everyone else second?
No, I think listen, there are players that I talked to that have played for other coaches and transferred out of there that said Dion cares for his players. I have been other places where I could tell the coach did not give a crap about me. Yeah. They didn't say it in so many words, but certainly they can tell, hey,
what's funny is people's criticisms of Dion describe so many other actual Power
who do
it
quietly
coaches.
And more subtly than Dion does. Yes. So, it's like and we keep saying, the big thing with Dion is like saying the quiet part out loud, but it's like the Colorado coaches meeting that everybody was so fired up about. As if every other coach does.
Every coach does that in his first meeting.
That's been going on for 20 years, maybe longer. What do we do?
We're going to have shock and awe in the weight room, and you're all going to quit. And everybody says that.
Is there a sliding scale between how much a coach cares about other people but himself and the success they have?
I mean, it's
not
tough.
Really.
Like,
no, I mean, I feel like the least you care about others, the better you are at your job.
That's probably true. I mean, it's like, I think there's also an element of like, I think there's, in some ways, this is true about college coaches, but like, people always say that the most disqualifying thing about a president is wanting to be president. Like, right. I think there's something to be said for like, if you want to be a college coach, like, just me and the way that I value my time and the things that I spend my time doing, I cannot imagine coaching college football. It sounds like a terrible job. I love to write about it. I love to watch it, but spending my time worrying about 18 to 22-year-olds doing the right things and doing the things that I taught them, and then trying to talk to other 16 and 17-year-olds on the phone all day to convince them to come to my program. Like that's sounds like
what bleak... I do. That's my job.
Yeah, that sounds like a bleak existence to me. To like, hey, I gotta text all these. I gotta get home at night and call 20 kids. Like, I don't want to do that.
It would be tough because the thing about our jobs that's so interesting is that a lot of the things that we do is predicated, like our results and our job is predicated on our work, and we're not relying on as many people. And when you're a college coach, you're relying on like 50 other people to do what they're supposed to do in order to be successful. And I find like that is the thing that would scare me the most about it.
Antoine mentions the interview. So I know Nick Suss a little bit. I asked him about this, actually. I hung out with him at the Sugar Bowl last year.
Nick Suss, by the way,
good
expert on sitcoms.
That's good to know. I did not know that.
I mean, encyclopedic knowledge of sitcoms.
Interesting. He has since moved on to cover the Titans. Yeah. Here's the deal with that. Is it was based on an assumption that is not true, which is that you need to treat me like you treat Coach Saban. I think we've all interacted with Nick Saban. I've used the term Nick. Like, we don't say coach. Now listen, if he wants to be called coach, that's fine. It is what it is. But I think it was sort of like almost like
it's out of respect you call a person what this is what Antoine is saying in the chat. Out of respect you call a person what they want to be called. I watched the interview and the reporters being very condescending. No. If I say I would like to be called Little Lord Fauntleroy, you have every right to say, no, that's stupid. I'm going to call you Andy because Andy's your name.
Yeah.
You call people by their names. Suck it up.
It was dumb. But at the end of the day, I think it was built around this idea.
Yeah, that everybody calls Nick Saban coach, which they don't.
That's just not true.
Well, that idea happened because that one reporter freaked out that one time 2 years ago.
The guy who went fishing with Nick Saban.
You don't call Nick. You call him coach. Yeah.
It's just and
we made fun of that guy too.
Yeah, and it's like, whatever. Like,
he went fishing with him once. Did you guys know that?
This stuff is not that important to reporters, and if it's gonna be a thing, it's not the end of the world to call a coach if he's not my coach or whatever. But that stuff got blown out of proportion. I think just because people have never seen that before. This is what I'm saying with the interest in Dion is that we're getting interactions and events and things. Like, There is not a coach in college football that ends every pregame speech with, "Now give me my theme music." That is not a thing.
I like
fantastic.
that. And then he doesn't cuss, but he uses the word "dern" all the time, which, by the way, is Gus Malzahn. So Gus Malzahn doesn't cuss, but uses substitutes for every cuss word. And it's people have a problem who play for Gus.
It's like drinking O'Doul's.
They have a problem keeping it together when he's chewing them out because it's so funny.
You know what it is, guys? I'm just going to say it's simple human nature. If something's different, if it looks different than you,
right,
sounds different than you, acts different than what you're accustomed to, you're wary of it, you're afraid of it, you're challenged by it, you hate it. Like that's what people do.
Probably a lot of it.
I think that's all it is. Right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think that's a good portion of it. But again, it's super interesting. Like Dion, again, I was talking when we were in Vegas, I was talking to some Pac-12 people, some Colorado people. I think it was their president. I can't remember who I was talking to. But we were just talking about the Dion thing, or maybe it was something from Pac-12. But I was like, listen, I went on the Paul Feinbaum show a week ago, and we spent a third of my appearance talking about Colorado football. I don't know that that's happened in the history of Paul Feinbaum ever.
Exactly.
They've already gotten their money back, guys.
That's the thing. There's real value in that.
If you actually think about how much does it cost to run an ad in the Super Bowl and to have a national ad campaign for anything?
Yeah, it's a lot.
Less than his annual salary, I bet. Yeah.
You're
Colorado's
right
already got. Everybody knows Colorado now.
Yeah.
No, and that's part of the reason you do it, and that's why I think a lot of the places that we're looking for coaches didn't quite understand that. Now, like Auburn doesn't need to do that. Everyone's aware of Auburn football. Everybody knows what it is. Everybody knows what the expectations are. But Arizona State needs to do that, and they didn't try.
The Colorado brand has not been in good shape. And I'd like to see, the graph that we need, Andy, is we need to look at over the last 4 years, Colorado's appearances on the Pac-12 network, and we need to look at their number of appearances on the Pac-12 network in 2022. Because I bet you it's going to be very small.
Well, the Pac-12 network is going to go away pretty soon.
Yes.
But
that's always a good indicator.
That TCU Colorado game. So TCU at Colorado this year, and obviously we didn't know what TCU was going to be either.
No, it's Colorado at TCU. Colorado at TCU.
No, I'm talking about the first game of this season. So Friday night, 10:40 p.m. Eastern time kickoff. Yeah. I guarantee you it's in a better time slot next time. So guaranteed.
I want to see the TV ratings for the Coach Prime games this year. They're going to be listen, people care. This is almost like I think we're going to get to the point of the offseason, Andy, where it's going to be like the Brett Favre, LeBron sort of situation of like, why do you guys keep writing about this guy and talking about this guy?
It's the same reason First Take talks about the Cowboys every day.
People care. Like this stuff resonates with people. People have a lot of opinions, and people are going to be watching and responding to whatever Dion does. That's just the reality.
Starting Wednesday.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Little
on National Signing Day.
Little Lord Fauntleroy, is that what you said?
That's what I said, yes.
That's what I'm going to call you from now on.
I love this SC Scout guy. I played for Lou Holtz in South Carolina. I guess he was just the polar opposite. There were no individuals. We didn't have names on the back. Lou Holtz is recognized as like one of the most two-faced people in college football history. He left every program on probation.
Also, this isn't the cat skinning business, but listen. Pete Carroll and Nick Saban exist in the same universe. Yeah. You can do Nick Saban is not having Will Ferrell out there to catch punts at an Alabama practice anytime soon. But Pete Carroll did okay.
Both of them very good at their jobs.
Yes. I think because we've talked about it, Nick Saban, through no fault of his own, I've called Nick Saban the Nirvana of college football, in that he's great on his own, and he's inspired some terrible, terrible things in his wake. And a lot of that is that you have to run your program like Saban.
Right.
Fun is illegal.
Spoken like a man who was on a beat covering Jeremy Pruitt's Tennessee team.
That's possible. My opinion might be colored by that. But we've seen a lot of that in the SEC of listen, this is how we got to be, and this is what we're going to do. And if we stray one iota from this, we'll never reach Saban's level. Dabo runs this program very, very differently from Nick Saban. It's just, again, not a cat skinning business, but there are more than one way to get to the playoff. There just is.
All right. We're going to take a break. When we come back, Ari asked me a question on the phone last week, and after about 2 minutes of discussing it, I was like, we need to do this discussion on the show. This needs to be done on the show. It's an NIL
After
question.
he called me a moron, but yes.
Did I call you a moron? I don't think I called you a moron. But
It was
I
the
think
tone, Andy.
David will be the perfect referee for this because David's covered this subject pretty intently. And so it's an NIL question. And it's an NIL ethics question, which I don't think there's a lot of people asking those these days. But Ari asked one, and I thought it was really interesting. And
It's
we'll
an
talk about it
amorphous concept. I'm looking forward to it.
All right. Sling TV has something for everyone. All your favorite shows on your favorite channels, all right at your fingertips. What you watch is up to you. It really just depends on what kind of mood you're in. So if you're looking for sports, Sling's got you covered with pro and college football and basketball, baseball, hockey, soccer, golf, racing, and so much more. Sling also has reality TV, so you can keep up with the latest gossip with today's hottest shows on channels like TLC, Bravo, MTV, and more. And don't forget about news. Get up to date with today's most trusted sources like MSNBC, CNN, and Fox News. Feeling adventurous? Explore thousands of movies and shows on demand. So what kind of mood are you in? No matter your answer, Sling has what you need. Getting Sling is easy. Sign up and start watching in just 5 minutes. You can stream on any device, and you can record up to 50 hours with your included DVR space. And the best part, you can pause or customize your subscription at any time. So check out sling.com for special offers. Sling, the TV you love for a price you'll love. Try it today. I have 10,000 pictures of my kids on my phone, but no idea how I'm going to compile all of them into an actual story for them. Artifact completely solves this problem. At the end of each year, they create a narrated video yearbook about each of my kids. Artifact sets me up with a professional interviewer to talk about my children throughout the year. I add photos wherever I want, and the Wizards Artifact edit it all together into a video yearbook. It's easy, fun, and affordable. The grandparents absolutely love it. You know what? One day, this is going to be an amazing gift for the kids themselves. You might remember that Artifact is a longtime sponsor of this show, and they still do life stories of older family members. But now they have a product for parents like me watching my kids grow up way too fast and wanting to hold on to those memories while they're fresh. You can sign up to try it for yourself for less than $9 a month when you use my code STAPLES at checkout. So go to heyartifact.com/kids and enter the code STAPLES to get started. That's heyartifact.com/kids and enter the code STAPLES. Welcome back. A little breaking news as we're recording this. Miami has landed a commitment from four-star running back Mark Fletcher Jr., 6'1", 225. The Canes beat out Florida for Fletcher so they can continue flaming one another on their various message boards and on Twitter, and all the Florida State fans can just kick back and laugh because they beat the hell out of them on the field.
People are yelling at John Ruiz like nonstop. I follow him on Twitter, and I feel like he's quote
been
tweeting somebody getting
hard.
yelled at. Like, I don't know.
He's
I never
very
understand.
respectful of everyone when he comes back with them, too. It's funny.
I never understand exactly what people are mad at him about, but somebody seems to be mad at him constantly.
They're mad at him. They're mad at him for having a lot of money and for spending that on players, but that's legal. And it brings us to our question. So, Ari, let's set this up. So you called me.
So I was on my way to North Park Mall in Dallas to buy.
I was on my way to the orthodontist office with my son.
You went to North Park Mall on a weekend in late December?
This is a
Thursday at 1. I'm a veteran, man.
Okay, all right. Tip a cap. My bad.
You know, I went to the mall because I don't know how to wrap my own gifts, and Nordstrom wraps them for you, even if you don't buy it at Nordstrom. And I was just like scrolling the phone at a stoplight, and I saw this tweet, and I don't know who tweeted it. Some reporter. I don't know.
Person who claims to be an international insider.
International insider. I don't know what that means, but
I'm technically inside the international.
If you're an international insider, it sounds like something the world could use. I don't know.
I've never broken news in another country, so I can't be an international insider, and I'm sorry about that.
But he tweeted that Peyton Bowen, who we still haven't gotten to the bottom of his recruitment yet or where he's going to officially go on Wednesday, was going to pass on an NIL deal from multiple other places that could be worth more than $2 million to stay at Notre Dame. Again, probably not true. But it got me thinking about a abstract world where that situation is encountered. And you're a coach at Notre Dame, for instance, and a prospect is being offered an insane amount of money to go to other schools. And you convince that player to continue to, stay firm with his commitment and come to your school. As a coach at the program that's not offering him $2 million, and again, Bowen probably wasn't making or going to get to.
And you're also assuming that Notre Dame
isn't getting anything.
No NIL money when you become a player at Notre Dame.
Let's just say, for the sake of argument, that there's a $1.5 million difference between what other schools are offering.
Okay, that's fine.
Your player.
We're talking about upfront. We're not talking about what you can make.
Yeah. We're talking about like an NIL deal with guaranteed cash to simply come to the school.
Yeah. Which of course would not be signed until after the person had signed their letter of intent, because we're not accusing anyone of breaking any rules here.
Cheating. Okay. But are you are you a bad person for steering a 17 or 18-year-old kid away from $2 million guaranteed cash to come to your school? Like, at a certain point as a coach that's not offering anywhere near the same amount, like, don't you kind of just have to let these guys go get paid? Like, at what point are you just like...
your job is to get the best players. That is Marcus Freeman's job. Also, if I'm the head coach at Notre Dame, I am making it very clear that if you blow up at Notre Dame and become a great player, you're going to make a fortune in NIL. Like, there are a few schools, like...
But blowing up in college is not easy.
No.
It's a hard thing to do. $2 million.
How many people already have, quote unquote, bet on themselves? And that is what you were asking this person to do. And again, you're absolving the player of any responsibility here.
I know, because one person's a millionaire who gets paid $9 million a year.
But the player can take the money. And
I'm saying, from a moral standpoint, you are a coach at a program who's making upwards of $10 million a year.
From a moral standpoint, your job is to get the best players.
Yeah, Ari,
and
what's the difference?
You're going to fire you from that job.
Ari, what is nothing away from $2 million?
Ari, explain to me the difference. Okay, Ari, explain to me the difference. We're going to go pre-NIL era. If you are a coach at Purdue and you are chasing a 5-star quarterback who is committed to Alabama, or we won't say Alabama. We'll say committed to Lincoln Riley at Oklahoma. Okay, we'll say
you're already on Andy's side. I can see it in your eyes.
No, I'm not. No.
No, but
you're already committed to Lincoln
your eyes
Riley
will be open when he gets where he's going
at Oklahoma, and you say, "Well, Lincoln Riley, you're going to be the number 1 pick. You're probably going to win the Heisman for Lincoln Riley." You still have an obligation to chase that guy, even if you're at Purdue and you say, "Well, you're probably not going to do all those things based on the evidence." But you might be Drew Brees in the long run. You might be doing some cool things. And maybe that's true. Now, as far as what the kids should do and what you look...
That literally never happens, by the way. But yeah.
Well, but it does. The guys won't convince them. They don't win that battle. But if you're committed to Oklahoma... It might happen
when they're 15. It doesn't happen when they're 19.
You want to say Jackson Arnold doesn't get calls from somebody every now and then, or a text from a coach say, "Hey, you still locked in with Oklahoma?"
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's from Illinois, but yeah.
Well, but the concept is still the same. I think
why not shoot or shoot, man?
Yeah.
And if you're Marcus Freeman, that is literally your job.
Maybe I'm a bad person because I convinced my wife to marry me when she could have gone with some rich guy. I mean,
you're damn right. That's exactly right. You are the Marcus Freeman in this scenario.
I'm a bad person.
Ari's living out his worst nightmare.
Imagine, Imagine all the manner of dudes that Britt could be married to right now.
I know, but I make her feel good.
They're hot. They're rich.
I'm hot.
Ari, you're not even a VP in a hedge fund. What are you thinking? Listen.
Yeah.
I will say, though, as a kid's perspective, I'm going to go nuanced here. I think it depends on the kid. There are some kids that if you got $2 million as a freshman, that's going to be bad for you. I truly believe that for some kids, it can be bad. For some kids, it won't matter. I think if you love the sport... I'm not going to live in a world
where you set somebody financially for the rest of their life is a bad thing, ever.
But it's not. But that's the thing, Andy, or Ari. I think when you give $2 million to an 18-year-old, and depending on their situation, that might not set them up for the rest of their life. That might set them up on a really bad trajectory, depending on the kid. I'm not saying this is not an anti-NIL, this is not, but I'm just saying the reality is some kids are not ready for that, and some of them are.
But the other thing is Notre Dame, Alabama, Ohio State, Tennessee, Texas. These are schools where if you do well as a player, regardless of anything you got up front, you will do very, very well.
Have you ever heard of the saying,
NIL?
Bird in the hand, 2 in the bush?
No, never heard of it. Very, very uncommon saying, Ari.
$2 million.
Did you make that up, Ari?
I actually wrote it in my notebook.
Ari, I don't actually disagree with you, but I think it does matter.
$2 million is a big bird.
But you're putting all the blame on Marcus Freeman if this guy. Let's say this one. We all agree this scenario is BS. That it didn't really happen this way, but. You're putting, let's say, if it was real, you're putting all the blame on Marcus Freeman for convincing this guy to go to Notre Dame, and none of the blame on the guy who chose to go to Notre Dame when he had many, many, many other options. At a certain point,
think that there is a certain
you have to make your own decisions.
Yeah, you do. But one's a kid and one's a millionaire. So it's like,
well,
it's
I will say,
easier,
all right, on a smaller scale, I'll pull some experience from my own life. I have taken a job earlier in my career that paid me a lot more money that did not really develop me in the way that I would have liked to have been developed when I was 23, 24. And I think if I had stayed, made a little bit less money, I think I could have been more developed to become a more complete journalist.
What if that job offered you $2 million and then you were able to put $1 million of it into an S&P 500 ETF and live out the rest of your life without having a job and have another million?
You're thinking about like a 35-year-old, though.
Yeah,
like 17-year-old me with $2 million would have thrown the bitchest party ever.
Ari, like, honestly, I'm going to say this with a straight face, and I hope it doesn't become a viral clip. $2 million is not that much money. Like,
no, it's
not. You can't like live forever off of $2 million.
Oh, you certainly could. You could go buy a $300,000 house and live.
Well, but in theory you could. But in reality, in terms of how people actually work, that $2 million is not a life change. Well, it's life changing, but it's not a life like. It's not
done for
50 million.
Anymore.
Yeah,
it does not go as far as most.
I was just telling my friend on the phone that $1 million is not what it used to be. So like, I'm with you.
It definitely isn't.
But I also do think that like, God, it's just like I would have a really hard time like convincing somebody to come to my school. They blow their knee out and they don't get the $2 million.
Ari, you didn't. But you didn't when you asked Britt to marry you. You weren't worried about her other options being so much better. So
he's got
what would be the difference?
I mean, I'm the one who presented the example. I'm just saying, like, I mean, I'm not chopped liver, I mean, we're doing okay.
Ari, if it makes you feel any better, I would marry you. I
would marry you too, bud. It's all. I mean, love is not the same thing as financial security. It is for some people, but like yeah. So I mean, I get what you guys are saying, and I think I'm with you on it. It's just like $2 million to a person who, let's be honest, most of the prospects that are going through recruiting, their families, and
they're not rich.
They're not
middle
rich.
class or less.
Some are rich, and some choose to go to Harvard instead of.
Some are. The vast majority are not.
Yeah, and it's not even just the vast majority of people aren't rich.
Yeah.
So like, think about all the people that could use $2 million that are 30 or 25 or 50.
Yeah, I think like I said,
you can give me $2 million.
You got a sick pool in your backyard. You're already winning. You got the pool. You're good.
$2 million. Domer puts up $2 million will change your life, but that's not enough to just like pack it in.
Right. You still have to work. It's not the end of everything. You got to build on that. So
it's just so much money to try to convince them not to take it. Like I think if I were a coach, I'd just be like,
but you're selling
and
them.
You get fired. You would get fired if you did that. That's
you're
the problem.
selling them on delayed gratification, Ari.
As Vaughn said, if Marcus Freeman lost a recruit because he told him to take the money, Notre Dame would run him out of town.
Yeah,
I know, but I wonder if Marcus Freeman is washing his face at night in his 6,000 square foot home with an infinity pool, and he's
6,000 square feet is all that'll buy in South Bend. I feel like
I don't know what he has.
I mean, you could have a moat in South Bend for what he makes.
25,000 square foot home.
Let's get in the 5 digits here. If we're going to be in South Bend making
God, that's just so much.
What is he making?
Man.
7 million, something like that.
Yeah,
probably?
He's making he's making enough to get whatever house he wants in Indiana. I don't know.
All right, gentlemen, we got to take one more break. When we come back, familiar name landing at a new place. A quarterback has come out of the portal. It's Rico's time is now. We'll be right back. I imagine you are making some New Year's resolutions right now as you listen to this podcast. I imagine some of those involve personal fitness. You want to lose some weight. You want to get in shape. We all do. Let me tell you about a few of my friends. Adrian Williams, Jess Sims, Marcel Dinkins, Andy Spear. I've never actually met any of these people. We did have Jess on the podcast, though, because she's on College Game Day. But these are people who push me through workouts regularly, who push me to my limits and past them because they understand how to motivate me. Where are they from? They're from Peloton. They're Peloton trainers. And after a while, they just start feeling like part of the family. If you're not already part of the Peloton community, now is the best time to start because you can get up to $200 off accessories like cycling shoes, heart rate monitors, and more when you buy a Peloton Bike, Bike Plus, or Tread. and up to $100 off accessories with the purchase of a Peloton guide to take your workout to the next level. So make this the first step toward achieving those fitness goals that you're going to set for your New Year's resolution that you wouldn't normally keep. But I'm telling you right now, if you join the Peloton community, you're going to have people holding you accountable. You're going to want to work out, and you're going to keep those resolutions. So get started now. All access membership is separate. The offer ends December 25th. It cannot be combined with other offers. See additional terms at onepeloton.com. Welcome back. So we got a little more transfer portal recruiting news. On3 reporting just a few minutes ago, Haynes King, former Texas A&M quarterback, has committed to Georgia Tech. So Haynes King coming to the ACC. That probably means Jeff Sims not coming back to Georgia Tech. Jeff Sims, by the way, he's been in the portal, and he's been in the portal since before. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Jeff Sims is committed to Nebraska. That's right. I can't keep it straight. There's so many of these things. So
it's going to be a long off season. As long as last year was,
file, man.
Like, it's crazy.
Yeah. We do need to keep that, or I need to have just the alerts on the phone. Ding, 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 ding. Well, I was bringing up Haynes King to get to Jeff Sims, and so the fact that he's going to Nebraska makes very interesting because he was the one guy in the portal, and Max and I played this game, and you were there, Ari. We played that game with Max where we were trying to decide who we would take out of the portal. Jeff Sims was the one guy we kept dragging up the top 10.
He advanced quite a ways there in that game.
Yeah. So he's going to go play for Matt Rule in Nebraska. Haynes King moves to Georgia Tech to play for Brent Key. We still don't know where Hudson Card's going to go, right? I didn't miss that one while we were recording the show, right?
Nope.
Everybody Google it real quick. But so it's very interesting because it creates this new hope. Like Georgia Tech, do you think they are sitting there going, well, we've seen Haynes King at Texas A&M, but he'll be different here?
I think it's so I would say this. I mean, all this is sort of a Rorschach test. We've seen in the transfer market because on the one hand, A&M's offense was pretty horrid last year.
Mm-hmm.
And so then you can say, well, if we put him in a good scheme, obviously he'll come to life. The flip side of that argument is Connor Wegman looked pretty good the last month of the season. I kind of like what I saw from Connor Wegman, and he was still playing in the horrid
he looked much more comfortable.
I'm just saying I'm not going to be beating down the door and setting calendar alerts to watch Georgia Tech football next year, but it's probably an upgrade.
One star for every finger.
That's exactly right. Well,
was that? I'm not going to be mean. I'm not going to be mean.
But I want
to be mean. You want to come at me on the show?
It wasn't mean to you. It wasn't mean to you. It was going to be.
How
mean
excited
to
are we to watch Shadeur Sanders versus Jeff Sims in week 2?
I want to know how good Shadeur Sanders actually is.
This is not to get back on Dion. Shadeur might be the most interesting guy in college football next year. I gotta say. Because for one, just the way that he's handled it, I was texting our colleague Stu Mandel. I said, I think Shadeur might be the first player to ever be named starting quarterback at another program and then start a game for a different program after being named the starter at another program. So that whole thing is weird. But Shadeur, we don't really know. You're not playing against great competition, so it's hard to really get a sense. But then you watch him really play, especially on a big stage of Celebration Bowl. Some of those throws, I don't care who you're playing against. He's making some unbelievable throws. The numbers are good. I just want to see it. You could tell me just about any possibility, and I think I'd believe it. So I'm in on.
So who Shadeur Sanders is going to get to play next year? A quarterback who did come out of the transfer portal last year, who had looked a certain way and looked very different in the new place, and that's Bo Nix.
I thought you were going to say Michael Penix, who also.
Exactly. Bo Nix, only because Bo Nix announced it as, basically right before we started recording. But Michael Penix and Bo Nix both are going to be there. And it's the Pac-12 is going to be a quarterback league.
They're channeling early 2010s Big 12 energy, and I love it because that quartet,
reigning Heisman Trophy winner,
that quartet at the top this year, USC, UCLA, Oregon, and Washington. That was about as fun of a title race as we saw in the country this year.
Agreed.
It was awesome. And those matchups were great. And I think it's only going to get better. And you get Nick's back, Penix back, Caleb Williams back.
This is really bad news for my USC bet, by the way.
I'm just saying, I am so excited about the
We got Ben Goldbranson back in Corvallis. He looked good. He looked really good in the bowl game.
We have an entire summer to talk up a good Pac-12.
We do. Well, how good will they be? I don't know, but they're going to be fun. And they're going to be the most entertaining league, I would say, next year, just based on the quarterback talent alone.
I don't think we have the dates yet on the games, but they play USC. Oregon plays USC at Autzen. That's going to be, that's going to be fun.
I'm starting to sweat. I'm starting to sweat, man.
I'm so excited. I'm coming around on what you said, Ari, that, people just get tired of the same person. And so I don't think Caleb Williams, he's going to have to really up his game to win the Heisman. And the team's going to have to be better. The defense will have to be better.
I don't know, when it comes to the repeat Heisman stuff, and you guys tell me if I'm nuts, but after Bryce won it last year, and I think Bryce is still probably the best player in the sport. Did you say Bryce is better than Caleb, or no? Not anymore.
If you were an NFL team, if Caleb were available
probably
for this draft,
he's bigger.
Caleb would get picked before Bryce, I think.
Really? I don't think that.
Bryce is 5'9", 180.
Yeah, I think
there's no chance. There's no chance if they were both available.
Okay, but let's not talk about the draft, which can be very stupid. In 10 years, who's the better player? I think I go Bryce personally.
Oh, I think I might go with Caleb. But Bryce is the one I'd take this year. I do the podcast with Dane Brugler, Prospects to Pros, and I keep harping on just take Bryce. He's the best at football. Just because he is the best. Andrew Cooper, Caleb isn't that athletic. Tell me you've never watched Caleb Williams play without telling me you've never watched him play.
What are we talking about?
Yeah. Drake, Chris Callahan pointing out Drake May would also be picked before Bryce. But
wait a second. But what? What did he say?
There is this Caleb Williams hating hive out there. It's fascinating.
I don't think I'm aware of this.
I got to be honest with you. If there was a way to hate Caleb Williams,
these are all Oklahoma fan burners. There's no way.
No. That is not the path.
I had an Oregon fan tweeting at me on Friday, who firmly believes that Caleb faked the injury in the championship game.
I cannot believe
he decided when they were up 17-3 that instead of just running around and blowing out Utah, that he'd run slower, take more sacks, and lose.
Is that a reverse Willis Reed? Is that what that is?
I don't know. It's the stupidest thing I've ever heard, but there are people who actually believe that.
Well, no, actually, Andy, let's take this out. He believed that he actually was more likely to win the Heisman because if they lost and then he cried after the game, people would be more sympathetic, and then he would get more votes. It actually makes sense if you really think about it.
Man, it's just Caleb Williams isn't athletic.
Is he the most? Would you say that he is the second?
Well, we know he produces the dumbest takes in the world.
Yeah, he might be the best runner of all the top 15 quarterbacks in college football right now.
Yeah. Was it that one play where he ran for 130 yards on a 6-yard gain? I will say, the original point I was going to make though is that for how good Bryce is, and for the team that he's on, the Bryce hype train was not really humming this year, even before they lost.
And I think my hottest take is that what Bryce did this year was almost more impressive even than what he did last year because they put a ton on him. He didn't have
the weapons, yeah.
He didn't have weapons. The offensive line somehow got worse. Bryce held it together. Bama might have gone 7-5, 8-4.
No, I am really excited about the Bryce Young era in Houston. I think it makes you think the Texans good and have them be reasonably good for a while.
I've always said people listen. I get the measurables conversation. I get big arm, big body. I get all that. I get where the NFL comes from, and they think they can do all this other stuff. If you can process, and if you can say I'm trying to put the ball here, and you put the ball there, if you can do those two things, you can live a long time in the NFL. Well, Chad Pennington can make a living in the NFL. Listen, anybody can.
Take Baker Mayfield. The first game he gets thrown in on one day for the Rams. Watch that last drive with Baker Mayfield. And Bryce is very similar. Like when he set foot on the field in college, you're like, yep, he's got it. You felt the same way about Baker. And I would feel the same way about Bryce in the NFL. Like he's just going to be able to make some stuff happen that may be a little bit off script. And I think he's going to be pretty good.
You can come up with a better comparison than Baker.
Accuracy and processing. Yeah, but like again, accuracy and processing. That's to me.
Who's a better comparison though?
I mean,
Drew
like
Brees?
we're talking about like NFL success.
No, I'm talking about physicality, size, speed, arm strength, processing power.
Can we go young Drew Brees? I might say young Drew Brees for our young Bryce.
I just think there's more. Well, Drew didn't have the opportunity to improvise.
Yeah.
At Purdue, the way that the quarterbacks now do. I imagine if he had, he would have been able to do some similar things. So
I just know when I see Bryce and when he doesn't have a guy hanging off of him and there's a guy down there, he hits him every time.
Yeah.
The dude is money.
Yeah.
So
Vaughn asked better than Kyler Murray, different than Kyler Murray, not as athletic as Kyler Murray.
Yeah, Kyler,
not the raw materials that Kyler Murray
But I think
has.
people view Bryce as a Kyler Murray type clone.
That's
no,
not
and
good
that's
at all.
what people
not
do.
accurate. Not accurate at all.
Kyler, his legs and what he can do with his legs. There are maybe 3 or 4 guys in the history of the NFL at the position that can do that. I mean, he's like a lesser Tyreek Hill in some ways.
Also, Kyler's arm is incredible. Like Kyler's arm is better.
Yeah, I mean, I think Bryce is just more slippery.
Nope.
Is that you don't think?
No, I don't think so.
Close.
He's just more accurate.
Bryce is not as good of an athlete as Kyler Murray.
No, I'm not
even
saying
close.
He's more slippery than Kyler. I'm saying he's like more. I would describe him more as slippery.
I think he has a better. No, I think what you're saying is I think Bryce has better pocket presence in terms of being able to do less to extend, whereas Kyler can just take off and nobody can catch him.
No, but I'm saying like
Bryce is the guy you'd want in your locker room.
Yeah,
Bryce is the guy you'd want in your locker room. Bryce is the guy you'd want leading your offense. Like the person leading your offense, the person who is a captain of your team, Bryce Young walks in and you're like, that'll work. And that's not the same with Kyler Murray as we've seen in Arizona. So that's the difference. And that makes a huge difference. Like Kyler Murray from a tool standpoint is better than almost anybody else in the NFL. But that one piece of it's a big piece. So
I would argue the most important piece.
Exactly. Like you don't get very often where you have like a Pat Mahomes or a Josh Allen that have the physical tools and that piece. So,
but I think you can get far. I think you can get far with the physical tools, but without the processing and decision making, that will put a ceiling on how great you can be. I think
Drake May is better than all of them. As an NFL prospect,
Drake.
I don't know. I mean,
he's a very good athlete. Dude.
Yeah,
I know. I'm just saying. If I were to start an NFL I'm in a dynasty football league, guys. Okay, so I know what I'm talking about. If I wanted
you're a general manager right now.
Yeah, I'm a GM. And my team just lost to Bill Landis today in the playoffs. Joke.
I want to see Drake May behind a better offensive line.
Yeah, I don't like.
No, but I'm saying if you had to pick one of these guys to have the next 10 years of the first 10 years of their NFL,
personally.
You're taking Bryce over Drake.
I'm taking Drake or Caleb, but
no,
probably
I'm taking
Caleb.
Bryce.
I think Bryce is third on my list.
No, I'm taking Bryce. I don't know what to make of Drake. There's when
you mean like a 6'4" dude with a rifle cannon and an athlete?
Yeah, but what do you make of the weird no-shows? Like when Bryce has had bad games, it's because he's getting pummeled on every single snap. Like Drake, the Georgia Tech game.
Drake also gets pummeled a lot.
Yeah, that's true.
What I'm saying.
But like
I would like to see him against playing behind a better offensive line.
That's probably
what I'd like.
I'd love to see Drake May play on Alabama's team.
Not going to happen.
Yeah.
Had a chance.
Hey, wait a minute, guys. That's not a rumor. I just thought.
It's not a rumor. He was committed and he flipped, and he could have probably flipped again in transfer portal, but he didn't.
Andrew, we can agree that Bryce is athletic, right?
I think Andrew can agree. Well, no, Andrew doesn't think Caleb's athletic, so no. I don't know that Andrew should be consulted on any measure of athleticism. So, oh, gentlemen, this is going to be fun. We get it. Just think about, okay, so we mentioned Jeff Sims at Nebraska. Like, that is built-in hope right now for Jeff Sims and for Nebraska. We're going to see more of this over the next week as these guys settle and they're like, we'll see where Devin Leary winds up.
Yeah,
Hudson
that's
Card.
gonna,
I'm fascinated about this.
That's gonna be the sport. There's gonna be 15 Adrian Martinez's every single season in perpetuity. Of like, well, here's this guy who can. Yeah, it's like, well, here's this guy who can do. Well, Michael Penix worked out this year.
Would you say that Michael Penix was Adrian Martinez-esque?
Yeah, because he could do some stuff and he showed some things, but also it wasn't really working out where he was. And now you're hitting reset and putting different things around him.
And he turned out awesome.
And how's this going to go? Sometimes it's not going to go great, but it's always interesting.
People were patting Michael Penix on the back a lot during the COVID year.
Well, sure, but then he kept getting
injured, hurt, and their season and then fell apart. I mean, he made Indiana.
But that's what I'm saying. He did some things. He had the nice little run there, but this year was his best year yet. I mean, he looked incredible. He looked way better this year than he did at any point during Indiana.
He's got a rocket of an arm for sure.
Like, yeah, he does, and he made some unbelievable throws like every game. And so I think like it just makes the sport so much more interesting. Like this is like, I whenever I talk to people, I keep saying this is the best time ever to play college football, the best time ever to cover college football, the worst time ever to coach college football.
Oh, yeah.
That is the sport right now.
Is it the worst time? Because you still make more money than you ever made.
Well, here's my counter to this, Andy, is that for a lot of these coaches, especially the ones that get $20 million in buyouts and then go take a harder job, I don't think the money means that much. The money for a lot of these guys is more of an ego thing of like, I want to make more than this coach that I hate or the coach that I think sucks. I don't really like, and if you're stuck in the office until 3 a.m. and come back at 8 a.m. the next day, what is $10 million doing for you?
Nothing.
Like, exactly. So I get the money argument, but I actually don't. I don't think that for a lot of coaches.
If only there were another place you could coach
here.
football and make a lot of money and not recruit or have to deal with the transfer portal.
Yeah.
Here's the problem with college football coaching now. It's 3 or 4 jobs in one. And I think it's really hard to
It's closer to being a Fortune 500 CEO than it is a football coach. That's
and I think that you have to be good at 4 different things that are all vastly different skill sets, which is why it's so hard to find the perfect.
Right. Because somebody's good at one thing but isn't great at another.
Is because Nick Saban is awesome at all of those things.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's very many people on the face of the earth that are good at 2 out of the 4, let alone all 4.
Yeah. And that's how you get bought out. Which, let's be honest, that's the American
dream, guys. We're going to get there one day. I can hold out hope.
Yeah. One of these days, I want to be paid millions to not coach. Been a lot of fun. We got a big week for you because National Signing Day is this week. So Ari and Stars Matter will be pushed forward. 2 episodes of Stars Matter.
One with you.
One with me.
Andy, I might be at the base of a mountain in an undisclosed state this week during signing day. Just saying. I don't know where that might be. I don't know. We'll see.
I cannot wait to read that story and
gonna buy a condo out there?
Have you on to talk about it.
There's only so many mountains in the United States, and I'm not going to West Virginia. David
Ubben live at Red Rocks. Can't wait.
An awesome come up for you, by the way. There's a lot of people at our company. I'm like, you're just the golden boy at the Athletic, man. What a life you live.
Spending time around Jeremy Pruitt and spending more time around Deion Sanders, there are worse upgrades that one can enjoy in this business.
It's
in terms
not even
of
the people,
interesting
the
coach.
Place.
Yes.
And Denver's a really sleepy good.
You're blowing up my spot, Ari. That was supposed to be subtle.
Oh.
It could be Denver. I don't know.
Ari's being quiet now.
That John Denver.
All right.
Shit, man.
Stay tuned for David's dispatch from Fort Collins.
Also, you're not going to Denver.
Shout out to the Rams. See y'all.